You know, when we started putting together this explainer on Cold War espionage, I fully expected we'd be diving into the usual stuff. Wiretaps, double agents, hidden cameras, that kind of thing. But today, we're looking at a completely different kind of spy network. We're going to frame this history like a thrilling heist movie, except the elite agents infiltrating enemy lines aren't human, they're animals. We're talking about pigeons carrying high-tech cameras to photograph Soviet nuclear submarines, dolphins trained to plant explosives, a crow bugging hotel rooms, and genuinely a surgically enhanced cyborg cat.
All right, let's open up this classified dossier. In this explainer, we're going to look at the Animal Advantage, Project Axiar Lite, nuclear subs and pigeons, Project Oxygas, the infamous Acoustic Kitty, and then wrap it all up with a complete mission debriefing.
So, let's set the stage with Section 1, the Animal Advantage, why nature beats technology.
Now, you really have to ask yourself, why were animals chosen as spies in the first place? I mean, think about it. The CIA had virtually unlimited funding and some of the most brilliant engineering minds on the planet. So why turn to the animal kingdom? Well, it turns out animals have these built-in natural abilities that completely outclassed even the absolute most advanced human tech of the 1960s.
Just picture the contrast here. If a foreign spy plane or a clunky early drone buzzes over a classified facility, right, it immediately draws suspicion. Alarms go off. But absolutely nobody looks twice at a crow sitting on a windowsill or a pigeon just flying by overhead. Plus, a dog's sense of smell is what? 10,000 times stronger than ours? And dolphins literally have built-in sonar with their echolocation. Nature basically offered the absolute perfect invisible camouflage. Which brings us to Section 2, Project Axiar Lite, the brilliant crow.
Let's meet our very first operative from the 60s. This is Duda. He was a highly intelligent crow trained out on California's San Clemente Island. And listen, Duda wasn't just your average bird. He was an absolute elite agent. Most birds would max out at flying maybe 1.5 miles, but Duda, he actually more than doubled his capacity to 3.5 miles, adjusting his altitude to fight through heavy coastal winds. Oh, and when local wild crows tried to jump him, he'd tactically lure them out over the open ocean until they got too tired and just retreated. But his actual spy skills, he was trained to recognize specific tables, literally open human drawers, and even carry heavy file folders right in his beak. So, here was the master plan for planting bugs. It sounds straight out of a sci-fi movie. Step 1, a CIA agent sits in a building across the street and points an invisible laser beam at a target window. Let's say a room full of KGB agents. Step 2, Duda is released, follows the laser, and drops a little recording device right on the ledge. And Step 3, the agent flashes a special return lamp, and Duda flies straight back. On paper, it is the perfect heist.
But nature is, well, it's intensely unpredictable. First off, Duda really struggled during his molting season. Losing those feathers totally messed up his aerodynamics. On top of that, the microphones he planted just weren't smart enough. They picked up way too much background street noise, making the actual target conversations basically impossible to hear. And tragically, this story ends there for our feathered friend. He vanished one day after getting attacked by a gang of wild crows. Just flew out of sight and was never seen again, likely dying in a brutal territorial battle.
Let's move on to Section 3, Nuclear Subs and Pigeons, Operation Leningrad.
The year is 1976, and the stakes are absolutely massive. The CIA desperately needed close-up photos of Soviet nuclear submarines being built over in the shipyards of Leningrad. The problem? Spy planes and satellites were way too high up to get the granular details they needed. Their solution? Extreme miniaturization. They custom-built this incredibly light 39-gram harness holding a tiny automated 16mm camera, and by strapping this whole setup to a pigeon, they could get undetectable low-altitude recon. We're talking 150 to 220 rapid-fire photos from just 100 feet in the air right over the shipyard.
But they ran into a massive logistical nightmare. See, pigeons naturally fly in a straight line right back to their home base. So the CIA had to invent what they called the ABC flight system. They heavily trained these birds so that if they were released at point A, they absolutely had to detour over point B, the enemy target, before finally flying to point C, their home base, to get their food reward.
And getting the pigeons to point A in a hostile Soviet city completely undetected, that required some serious creativity. Agents came up with these three, honestly hilariously absurd covert release methods that they genuinely implemented. You literally had guys tossing pigeons out from under giant oversized trench coats, or dropping them out of the false bottoms of briefcases while just casually walking down the street. Or, and this is definitely my personal favorite, releasing them through a hidden trapdoor cut straight into the floorboard of a legally parked car.
But, once again, the heist totally falls apart. Despite all that brilliant engineering and the ABC training, the CIA kept losing these cutting-edge, super expensive cameras to just mundane city life. The pigeons would get lost in bad weather, or they get hunted and eaten by local hawks. Some were tragically just hit by cars the literal second they were released. Thousands of dollars of highly classified tech literally eaten or run over.
Let's pivot to the water for Section 4, Project Oxygas, Navy Dolphins.
This 1964 initiative was literally inspired by an engineer chatting at a party and the hit 1960s TV show Flipper. I'm not kidding. The CIA and the Navy teamed up because they wanted dolphins to be the ultimate underwater saboteurs. The goal was to outfit these incredibly smart mammals with special nose cones to carry explosives right up to enemy ship propellers, or, alternatively, have them plant acoustic microphones on hulls to record the specific sound signatures of Soviet sub-engines. They even had a successful practice run, where a dolphin attached a fake explosive to a ship. There were even wild rumors floating around that they were considering strapping small nuclear payloads to them.
But here's the fatal flaw with Project Oxygas: dolphin psychology. These are deeply emotional, super social creatures, and because of that, they straight up refuse to take orders from strangers. A dolphin would perform absolutely flawlessly back at base for the trainer it loved and bonded with, but the second you deployed them out in the open ocean with a brand new CIA field agent, they completely ignored the mission. You just couldn't hand them off to a new user like a piece of spy equipment.
Okay, Section 5, Acoustic Kitty, the cyborg cat.
This is without a doubt the CIA's most secretive, controversial, and downright bizarre attempt to blend biology with espionage. To spy on Soviet agents, and specifically a Chinese diplomat over in France, they decided a wandering stray cat was the absolute perfect cover. So they literally took a living cat and surgically turned it into a cyborg, a walking recording device. They embedded a microphone right in its ear canal, hid a transmitter under the skin at the base of its skull, wove a really thin antenna all the way down its tail, and actually put a battery pack in its stomach. They even wired its brain to override natural hunger and mating instincts so it wouldn't get distracted on the job.
And the cost for all this? The CIA invested a staggering $25 million to perfect this unsuspecting feline spy over a period of 5 years. $25 million in the 1960s? All riding on the back of one single cyborg cat.
Yet, in a painfully anticlimactic tragedy, that massive investment ended in an instant. According to Victor Marchetti, a former CIA official, they took Acoustic Kitty out in a van for its very first field test. They were supposed to eavesdrop on two men sitting on a bench in a park. They slide the van door open, the cat steps out, and before it even gets close to the target, a passing taxi cab runs it over. Seriously, a $25 million intelligence asset wiped out by everyday city traffic. Now, the CIA today denies some of these details and tries to play it off as an internal joke, but the legend of the multi-million-dollar taxi casualty remains totally infamous.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 6, Mission Debriefing, the limits of control.
Let's do a quick debrief here, because looking at this matrix, a pretty wild pattern starts to emerge. You've got Duda the crow, using laser guidance to bug windows, completely defeated by basic molting and wild birds. You've got submarine hunting pigeons with microcameras, taken out by city traffic and hungry hawks. The naval dolphins carrying explosive payloads, defeated by their own need for friendship and social bonding. And of course, the $25 million Acoustic Kitty, destroyed by a random taxi. Over and over again, we see this incredible, multi-million-dollar technological ambition getting completely derailed by the simple, unstoppable realities of nature.
Which really leaves us with this final thought to wrap up our explainer. The CIA had essentially unlimited budgets, the smartest engineers on the entire planet, and the absolute most pressing geopolitical motivations in modern history. But despite all of that power and brainpower, a hawk still needs to eat. The wind still blows, and an animal still has a mind of its own. It really makes you wonder,
As our tech gets even more incredibly advanced today, can human ambition ever truly control the wild, unpredictable forces of nature? Or are we just always destined to be outsmarted by the very world we're trying to command? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and hey, keep questioning the world around you.